ואני אומרת להזמין אותך, מר ישראל מדד, שמשמש סגן יושב ראש האגודה לזכות הציבור לדעת, שהכותרת של הרצאתך, האם סופרים אותם על יחס התקשורת המקומית והזרה לארגוני זכויות האדם מהמחנה הימין הלאומי. בבקשה.
Sarah Tressler, a Houston, Texas stripper, worked also at the Houston Chronicle, was fired if she did not list her other employment on her original job application. She then sued, claiming unfair dismissal. Was the sacking justified because of a bureaucratic slip or because Ms. Tressler's side job adversely affected her credibility as a journalist? What else could so adversely affect a journalist's credibility? On November 14, 2011, Sir Brian Henry, Lord Justice Leveson, he of the Leveson Inquiry in England, said, "The press provides an essential check on all aspects of public life. That is why any failure within the media affects us all. At the heart of this inquiry, therefore, may be one simple question: who guards the guardians?" Are these two fairly recent media news items related? And if so, are they relevant to our conference today? Of course they are. For quite simply, media consumers need protection from the media. A Neiman Center reported this past summer entitled "Truth in the Age of Social Media" notes that a central aspect of journalism has been can information be verified in that a new complexity exists. The amount of photographs, video clips, and tweets directed at journalists is immense. Are journalists being manipulated? Well, are they? Or do they permit themselves to be so manipulated, and are their clients then manipulated? There is a new quasi-journalism which, as Carol Bogert, Deputy Executive Director for External Relations at Human Rights Watch, said, "We consciously ape the style of the media in our communication in order that we produce what we produce looks more like journalism," adding, "We're a non-profit and we're moving into the media business." The topic of this panel is, does human rights really interest the press? Of course, human rights is a media topic and interests the press. Not only, but, as I am claiming, more insidiously, it serves elements within the media, be they the reporter, the rewrite editor, the desk editor, the foreign news department head, the picture editor, the caption editor, the interviewer, the presenter, the camera person, and so on, by allowing them to insert their preferences into the news. And that is what I would call bias, not objective editorial considerations. What interests me further is that the more sensitive issue are media consumers, those who read the newspapers that still appear, listen to the radio, watch the television, or stare at the computer screens. Are they being manipulated by the media by unfair framing, unethical presentation, imbalanced data, and actual illegal editorial subversion? Ms. Bogert of Human Rights Watch was quoted saying the press release is meant to look like a wire service story, so that when it arrives in the inbox of a wire service reporter, it moves seamlessly into the mainstream media. I would claim that in too many cases here in Israel, that effort and that technique is less than necessary, and the issue of human rights suffers. One of the main groups whose human rights not only are not championed and given a fair hearing in the media, but are consistently portrayed in the most biased fashion, are the Jews living across the former Green Line ceasefire lines. In short, they really do not have proper mediated human rights. They are invaders, and the sole prism utilized by the media is political. Their achievements in agriculture, industry, education, social volunteering is near non-existent in the media. The difficulties they suffer are never a matter of human rights. The presence is a one-dimensional media review. The B'Tselem organization, which defines itself as the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories, and is a major player in supplying the media with so-called reliable reports, does not really concern itself with the Jewish human rights issues. Moreover, their reports are covered as if they are not ideologically motivated or the video clips edited, and with no independent checking of so-called facts. There are present some 360,000 Jews in those territories of Judea and Samaria, and as B'Tselem considers Jerusalem's post-67 neighborhoods also occupied, we must add at least 220,000 Jews to that number. Only Arabs have human rights, is the implication. Rarely are any of the anti-occupation groups ever pressed or challenged on their concern, or lack of, for Jewish human rights. Over 1.5 million humans have had and continue to have their existence, their residence, and their everyday activities maligned as being illegal. US President Obama calls it illegitimate, but I don't know which is worse. And yet, when three legal experts, including a former Supreme Court justice and a foreign minister legal advisor, present a counter-narrative, it is ridiculed, and even before the full report, I am referring to the Edmund Levy report, could have been read, it was analyzed the next morning in the media in a most prejudicial fashion. In 2005, the disengagement from Gaza was done. The term expulsion was verboten in the mainstream media. And a major human rights violation, the actions of the state prosecutor's office in arresting underage youths and holding them in outrageous conditions, not to mention police sexual abuse actions against the teenage girls, was horrifically underplayed with the state's agents who got a free pass on any criticism. The violence at Amona could not be ignored because of the various video clips that went viral. But if not for those, as in similar cases, the media would not prominently report on that, as they do with Arabs or leftists. Moreover, Arab violence is not reported as equally on the same level of violence against Arabs as reported, except if Jews are actually killed. The pro-Arab NGOs are much more successful in inserting their news stories, and the media does not seek out or play out mirror image stories like the almost 200 Jewish-owned olive recently hacked and destroyed in the Shiloh Block area. Last September, Asher Palman, his infant son, died when their car crashed near Hebron, but it took even the police, and even less so the media, many days to investigate claims that it was purposeful Arab stone-throwing incident that killed them. And many believe that the army deliberately misled the media and the media played puppy dog. And in an aside, the consistent ignoring or minimalizing stories of human rights violations in areas of the Palestinian Authority, controlled by them, committed by Arabs, such as honor killings, jailing of journalists, torture of prisoners, etc., as well as anti-Semitic incitement, is the obverse of this phenomenon of ignoring Jewish news. As for semantics, we all know, don't we, as the media reports, that there are no left-wing extremists. There are only right-wing extremists. Left-wingers are always peace activists. Right-wing peace activists, as the media term, cannot be found. Even to hear the word communist is impossible, although we do have a communist party in the Knesset in another guise. As for the latest Haaretz fiasco on its fake apartheid story, well, the human rights of all Israelis are besmirched, as we now know from the clarification. Do children have human rights, or can the media force-feed them content of questionable permissiveness in an unrestrained fashion, including nudity, swear words, drug scenes, and violence outside the regular watershed hour, as to purposely sexualize and traumatize the culture? We don't have a Jimmy Savile, as far as I know. The sexual abuse behind media studio doors has occurred despite self-cover-up attempts. A second issue is the price tag violence. It exists. It is pernicious, criminal, and I cannot fathom why the police are so unable to do anything. Be that as it may, the media message is that it is settler violence. And so the dignity over 1.5 million humans has for the past few years been trampled in the media. I now quote from the Alternative Information Center's report of October 9th this year. It's a left-wing organization. Israel's police commander of the West Bank, Major General Amos Yaakov, provided an eye-popping interview to the Hebrew language news site Walla. Amongst his revelations, the identity of those who set 4 West Bank mosques on fire is known, but they remain free. Most price tag attacks are conducted by young people, even children who don't live in the West Bank. Not only was any arrested rabbi, supposedly for inciting this violence, ever put on trial or found guilty, nevertheless the media message is one of guilt. Pictures of leg-shackled clerics appear, but their release is shunted aside. It is the same charge of guilt which maligns the human rights of the national religious camp since 1995, assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. And by the way, the revisionist wing of Zionism since 1933 murder of Chaim el-Azhar. The media knows who is guilty. Another media news item is the Temple Mount. 2 weeks ago, Anat Hoffman of the Women of the Wall was arrested. Her crime? Praying aloud while wearing a talit at the Western Wall Plaza. The High Court of Justice fixed those conditions of limitation. They are not arbitrary. Media sympathy was probably evident again. However, the struggle for Jewish rights on the Temple Mount is media framed as a provocative act, as the fault of the Jews, as an example of messianic craziness. And yet, on the other hand, the simple fact that the law of the land is that Jews do have a right to pray, recognized also by that same High Court of Justice, is not only underplayed, if at all, but usually unreported. I'm going to skip. Another issue of the characterization is the characterization of the Haredim, or ultra-Orthodox, which is usually one of a parasitical social element. That went out the window the summer before last when the great cottage cheese revolution was initiated by a Haredi. But still, Haredi avoidance of army service is very much a media theme. The avoidance of service amongst the cultural icons of song, dance, literature, sports, and models, for example, the beautiful Bar-Ilan, is way down in the rankings, relegated to the rejection list of editors. Why would a reporter seek to malign his milieu comrades in Israel's second state, Tel Aviv? How many stories do we see about Haredi self-assistance associations or a simple economic analysis of Haredi poverty? To a great extent, similar minorities, Arab, Russian, and others, suffer from media coverage inadequacy in the field of human rights. Is there indeed bias, or is it just a right-wing imaginary illusion? Well, let's briefly tell the story of three Kol Yisrael broadcasters and editors. Dr. Hanan Naver, who edited the Israel Broadcasting Authority's radio desk in the late 90s and early 2000, as he admitted in a 2007 Haifa University media conference, and I quote, "The morning audience stuck in traffic jams or at work is simply captive. They're ours. Three broadcasters, Carmela Menashe, Shelley Chimovich of the Labour Party, and I pushed in every way possible the withdrawal from Lebanon towards 2000. In our newsroom, three of the editors had sons in Lebanon, and we took it upon ourselves as a mission, possibly not stated, to get the IDF out of Lebanon. I have no doubt that we promoted an agenda of withdrawal that was a matter of public dispute." IBA, by the way, is a state-sponsored public broadcasting authority. At this point, Army broadcaster Golan Yochpa is interrupted. "In my opinion, that is just super problematic. Super problematic." Naver replied, "Correct, I'm admitting it. I'm not apologizing, I'm just saying this is what happened. It came from our guts because of the boys in Lebanon. This is what we did, and I'm not sorry. I'm very proud that we are part in getting our sons out of Lebanon." And allow me to recall my first meeting with then IBA Moti Kirschenbaum in 1995, when presented with multiple examples of anti-nationalist bias and your run-of-the-mill normal ethic violations, retorted, "You have to remember, it's not that media people are overwhelmingly leftist or liberal, but that liberals and leftists are naturally curious, and so they gravitate to journalism." I want to be clear, the information, the facts, the pictures, and more to tell a different story are out there. Spend more time, or if you're a believer in alternative media sources, and you will be informed that human rights infractions of Jews of a certain political, cultural, or religious type are occurring and are not propaganda. You can read the reports of Israel Media Watch, my organization, Tadmit, Perspectiva. There used to be Manof of the Haredim, Dror Eider in Israel Yom, Kamanifkim Ben Dror Yemini and Mariv are scathingly critical. But the bon ton is we of the mainstream media disagree and even dislike these people and their politics, and we will distort the reality through our control of the media. How many times do right-wing media critics appear on shows like Tik Tik Shoret and the like over the years? In the Clubhouse, The Seventh Eye. How much coverage does the Chonenu Aid Group get? Excuse me, neutral coverage. Orit Strucker's Human Rights Organization of Judea and Samaria. A decade has passed since anthropologist of the New York University, Meg McLaughlin, highlighted the little attention at the time was being paid to the interconnect between human rights politics, I emphasize, and media. And I will borrow Alan Feldman's narratological numbness matrix, whereby, in my redefinition, it is not so much the inability to tell the story that forces the recourse to axiomatic story forms and plotness, but the unwillingness predicated on prejudicial approaches to the subject matter being printed or broadcast. This is the heart of the political ethical morass we face here in Israel's mainstream media and how it views, conceptuates, and produces for the media consumer. I would define a certain platform that I defined earlier as that of the three C's. There is cooperation, there is collaboration, and there is collateralism. Collateral in the definition of uniting in tendency. In Israel, there is no real media pluralism. Those who worked at Kol Yisrael moved to Channel 1 TV, and those that worked at 1 moved to 2, and then on to Channel 10. And most electronic broadcasting personnel, the editorial, reportage, and technical, all went to the school of the IDF Galatz Army radio station, where they learned, among other things, also how to shape the news, how to slant, and how to eliminate stories. In Galatz, there are media dynasties of 3 generations already: grandfather, father, son, and daughter. Ilana Dayan, a Galatz graduate, could probably better tell her tale of media bias than I concerning the human rights of a certain Captain R. Craig Silverman, in that previously mentioned Nyman report, wrote about a public with the ability to spot a hoax website, verify a tweet, detect a faked photo, and evaluate sources of information is a more informed public, a public more resistant to untruths. We in Israel are waiting still. If this conference has been called Broken Mirrors, I will suggest it is more a matter of much too much shattered glass in the newsroom, lending a prism effect of uncontrolled and inadequate supervision either by ombudsmen or ethical review boards or the press itself. Media bias of the human rights of certain political and cultural groups of Israel's society. And as for that Sarah Tressler I mentioned at the beginning, at least with her we got to see all there was to see. Thank you.